No composure, no legs, no strength. All nutmegs. Hi, it's Talking Reds. I'm Josh Sexton, joined today by my mate ESPN's Glenn Price. It's the day after Valentine's Day. Did you have an eventful one opening all your cards yesterday, Glenn?
Absolutely not, no. I read a book on my own in the evening. Had a lovely evening on myself, yeah. It's quite nice. What about yourself?
Better not talk about that, mate. In terms of Liverpool news, Dejan Lovren is in a race to be fit for the first leg against Bayern Munich. I think it was Klopp, wasn't it, who came out yesterday and sort of said that he's returns to Melwood on Saturday and they're hoping he'll be back in full training by Monday. It's a tough situation, isn't it? Because Liverpool could be going into the game with sort of one recognised centre half in Joel Matip, and we all know that Joel Matip is probably not the most reliable option for Liverpool. So how do you think Klopp's going to sort of fare with that decision?
Yeah, it's really not great. I think what Klopp said to the official site was that they're planning on the Bayern game without Lovren, which makes you think that, given the way the manager operates these things and how planned he likes to go in these games, you just think Lovren's definitely not going to feature, or barring a miracle. I think there's suggestions today that Lovren's in Croatia trying to get extra treatment to work on that hamstring. It's quite a strange one, really, because he was on the bench, wasn't he, for one? I can't remember off the top of my head which game he was on the bench for, but he hasn't obviously featured since that Wolves game, and then he's on the bench and now he must have had another setback. It's not great, and it's because of Van Dijk being out. It's going to make Liverpool are going to have to, unless the likes of Keanu Hoover or Nat Phillips plays, which I don't think will happen.
Well, Phillips has been injured himself.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a makeshift option at centre half, and I know the obvious one people are saying it is Fabinho, but I just wonder, given how well Fabinho's played in midfield and the form he's in, whether you do want to move him, because I think what was quite noticeable and interesting was that for that Wolves game in the FA Cup, where Liverpool had virtually no centre halves, Jordan Henderson was earmarked to play at centre half in that game, and I just wonder whether, given Fabinho's form and given his importance in that midfield, trio or two, depending on the formation they play, they might just keep him there and Henderson gets a shout at centre back alongside Matip, because Henderson is dependable. He played right back. He played numerous midfield positions this season. I just think that might be one option, but I think the likeliest is Fabinho to play at centre half.
Makes you long for the days of Ragnar Klavan, doesn't it? To be honest,
yeah,
I miss him more than anything.
Yeah, that's something like made 30 appearances or something last season, like 20 odd starts, and
I don't remember a bad game.
Yeah, but you always go into a season thinking you've always got enough, and it does just show you that like one or two injuries can have massive setbacks to a squad, and thinking you would like a player as dependable as Ragnar Klavan who can come in. I always use the analogy of Klavan being a plaster, in that he's good for a day or so, a day or so in a game, but probably not.
You don't want him to have
long term. Yeah. Although that said, he did play quite well before Van Dijk signed last season. But but they have been quite unfortunate, really. Joe Gomez, a nasty injury. Lovren, there's always been question marks about his fitness, and just Van Dijk getting suspended as well. Couldn't really have come at a worse time. But yeah, it's not great, this news about Lovren.
You mentioned that Fabinho, he seems like the most likely go-to makeshift option, but he was in that midfield against Bournemouth on Saturday, which played so well alongside Wijnaldum as well. Wijnaldum is obviously somebody else who's played centre-half for us before, albeit in a back three at Brighton, I think alongside Emre Can as well, wasn't it, if I remember rightly. So that was the worst times than what we're seeing now, definitely. But Wijnaldum is back in training, which is good news, and I think you saw his importance in that game against Bournemouth, didn't you? I think sometimes people think he sort of drifts in and out of games, but he showed, when he stands up and is counted, that he's massive for this Liverpool side.
Yeah, he's been one of Liverpool's best players this season, and I think that goal he scored against Bournemouth will help earn him a bit of recognition from the outside Liverpool world about just how good he is and has been this season. I think he's so important to this Liverpool side, and I know me and Neil Jones published an interview with Pep Linders yesterday, and the question I asked is just how important is Wijnaldum, and petal like blew out his cheeks and said he means everything to the team. And I think it's often overlooked that because he's quite a smiley character, he's a lovely man, he's genuinely lovely and he smells wonderful. But he is a real leader. It's often overlooked. I think he was obviously voted the 4th choice captain by the squad. He's really respected by a number of the young players. And he's got character, he's got real character about him. He can play in any position, and the position he often does play in the midfield often means he's having to take the ball in uncomfortable situations and turn, and with 3 men towards his back and stuff. It is a good news, and also on the character thing, the fact that he's playing just hours after he's been on the toilet for quite a long period and spewing up his guts, and putting in that kind of performance just shows you, one, how what a professional he is, and 2, how good he is that in fact he can do that. So that good news that he's back in regular training. I think he'll be quite important. He really steps up in these sort of big games. I think he really relishes the physical tackle. I don't think I've ever seen a player use his body like as good as Gini Wijnaldum. I think Oviajaria once tried to. That was one of the points he was looking at improving on, was looking to use Gini Wijnaldum's body and how he shields the ball and how he'll keep the ball away from opponents and stuff. And I'm glad Wijnaldum's getting the recognition he deserves this season.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a sort of couple of combinations in terms of what Liverpool can do in midfield, particularly looking ahead to the Bayern game. There's that sort of the tried and trusted, if you will, of Milner, Henderson and Wijnaldum, which they might be looking at for that Bayern game, particularly if Fabinho does have to slot in. But it's interesting that whenever we talk about these combinations, you look at the one on Saturday with Fabinho, Wijnaldum, Keita. Gini is the one who's always sort of in there, but it looked like a slightly different role from against Bournemouth, didn't it? It wasn't his sort of usual, just keeping things ticking over and maybe making Liverpool just sort of run like a well-oiled machine. It was more he was getting forward and getting into positions to score goals.
It's weird one with the midfield, because we often go through phases where we see a certain midfielder play sort of more an advanced role, like their instruction is clearly to sometimes get beyond the attackers, and this time it was obviously Wijnaldum's turn. His goal wasn't the first time he was breaking ahead of Salah or whatever was it. It's important to remember when Klopp first came in, the instruction was to all of his players to just get in the box as much as possible, and you sort of think that might have died down a bit now, given this Liverpool team is a bit more controlled, but that instruction still remains. It's just picking the right moments to make those runs and to go that far advanced if you are a midfield player, but it's probably easier when you've got the likes of a disciplined player like Fabinho and Van Dijk at centre half. You can afford to probably take those risks and not get caught out.
Yeah, absolutely. And Wijnaldum's injury, with the injury latest on him, is not the only good news to come out of Marbella. Obviously, we've seen Oxlade-Chamberlain and Ryan Brewster back in full training, and Brewster's been talking about his sort of rehab and how he's been faring with that. And he mentions, and it's interesting with Brewster, because I always see these interviews with him, and he seems like a dead mature lad for what he is. He seems like he's got an old head on young shoulders, to sort of use that cliche. But he talks about there being moments throughout his rehab where he thought about just quitting football and thought, like, what was the point in it, which is quite sad really, isn't it, when you think about it. But it also shows how good the welfare side of things has to be at the club for these players who go through such sort of tough times to help see them through that other side.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's coming up to 18 months now, isn't it, since that injury. He had one off 2 setbacks during his recovery, but 18 months for a 17-year-old. Well, I think he's 18 now.
Yeah.
Isn't he? Yeah. That's a long time, considering someone who, at that age, they're not probably blindsided by the politics of football. They just actually love playing football.
Yeah.
And to be away from it for 18 years, wasn't nearly like 10%, or over 10, nearly 10% of his life or whatever. That is absolutely crazy. It's quite a forthright interview on the official website. Give it a read if you get a chance, and probably. It's easy having Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and players alongside you who's a good lad and to help you with that, but it mustn't half be lonely to watch people go out on the pitch every day while you're in the gym and limited with what you're doing.
That's one of the good things that's come from it, though, isn't it? That relationship between him and Oxlade-Chamberlain, like you see in the Bezies video on the club's YouTube channel, like that sort of connection between them. It's important for both, isn't it, that when you are out injured and you're just sort of doing your gym work at Melwood, that you've got someone who you can bounce off like that.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out that Brewster is like everyone loves him because he is a bit of a character, and he's a striker. He's sort of like the best player in your school team or whatever. He's got that swagger about him. So this must have been like a really difficult time for him, and maybe that's why people get on with him so well, because they like that bravado and that confidence that he has. But it's going to be interesting to see, when he does return. I think Klopp mentioned, Nate dropped it in a press conference recently, that he was probably unlikely to feature this season. It'd be pre-season before he gets in. That's just them being careful, I think, which is understandable given he's so young. And I was always a bit, questionable about the suggestions that Klopp had promised him game time and opportunities, and I think it's really easy to do that in June or whenever, or in pre-season. But Liverpool are in the midst of a Premier League title challenge now and potentially going for the Champions League again. So I think it is best to just play it safe and see how he fares in the pre-season, because it's a long time he's been out.
Yeah, absolutely. Massive couple of months ahead for the Reds, and a massive week next week as well, with obviously Bayern Munich to come. Loads to come from us at the Anfield wrap as well. We're going to be in Ireland between the 23rd and the 25th of March. Tickets for that are on sale now. There'll be links in the description for that. And also in terms of what's out on our subscription service, Talk Play today, we've got the Weekender, which is out this morning, which is our look ahead to what could be to come at Munich, and also just to the Liverpool weekend in general. We've got Alphabet Soup, which is always a good laugh. That's our sort of A to Z of Liverpool's football and cultural history. So that's a good listen if you get a chance. And then One for the Future as well, which are going to be recording in a bit, myself and Glenn Price, and also Goal.com's Neil Jones. So that promises to be a cracker, but nice one for coming on, Glenn.
No, thanks for having me.
Up the Reds.
The season so far, Neil Atkinson and Gareth Roberts, and how nice was Anfield on Saturday? And I don't mean that in the sort of against Bournemouth. I don't mean that in a sort of everyone was lovely to each other. I just mean it was a really warm atmosphere to play football in.
It was great. It was fantastic. I mean, I thought it was good that there were so many sort of appeals for something special to happen. My slight worry was that it then didn't, and then where'd you go from there? But you had the Spy and Cop lads, you had Kenny Dalglish, you had Jürgen himself in the programme, all saying, Virgil as well, all saying, an atmosphere does make a difference. And the atmosphere was great, and I thought it was interesting afterwards. You'd expect Trent and Jürgen and people like that, and even ourselves, to say, wasn't that great, and all pat ourselves on the back. You had Steve Cook, centre half for Bournemouth, saying, that was brilliant, and that will play a part in where this title goes, and I think that's really important, because it does make a difference. And I've always said that, as a fan, it feels better to me when you're playing an active part of this whole thing. It's not the theatre, it's not other sports, it's football, and we're passionate about it, and we're tribal about it and all that, and I love all that side of it. And you're right to say the feeling around it was lovely. It wasn't all big nice hugs and kisses, but it was just, you felt as one. People keep talking about unity, and I think you got a sense of unity on Saturday.
We know it'll be a bear pit against Bayern, and we'll talk about that in a minute. That's the way it is against Bayern. It's a big European night, but it's about making, I think we always talk about, for instance, what does it do to the opposition? What we don't talk about enough, I think, is what does it do to our boys?
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes them better, makes them sharper, and makes them more likely to try things if they feel as though they're in a warm place. So that'll happen against Bayern, but it's making it happen against Watford, against Burnley. These are massive games as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was a little bit of a problem around it before. It got referenced against Leicester, and I think everyone was getting a little bit nervy and a little bit worried, and worrying too much about what the worst case scenario is. Instead of just sort of living in the here and now and enjoying where you are, and offering some unconditional support for these lads. And I think, you look at Robertson, for instance, we know that he puts his heart and soul into every match anyway, but he's talked about before, when he hears his song, how it gives him a little bit extra in the legs, and you can see it. I think you can almost see his shoulders rise, and he starts pumping into tackles a bit more and stuff. Firmino as well, brilliant setup for Mo's goal. He must have heard that song going on for 15 minutes or whatever it was, and again, that was fantastic.
Did you see him turn and have a look?
He did have a look.
He turned and had a look, and he had a look like, this is mad. I haven't even scored here. This is mad, and I loved it. And it really, because it was the breaking play, and it just was going on underneath it, and he was like, this is absolutely brilliant, and it was so lovely to see again that idea that he was going, this is great, and I was desperate then for him to score, but then almost in a sense, it's almost better now that he didn't, and that he gets to think, God, that's what they do for me when I don't score. Imagine when I score.
And they do think about all this. I think lots of people sort of look at this, maybe outside the Liverpool bubble, and go it doesn't influence it. The professionals, they paid a lot of money. But I watched that Steven Gerrard thing recently, and he was talking about when he made his debut for Liverpool. Now, for me, in my head, Steven Gerrard, this big warrior, this big hard lad from Brighton, he comes on the pitch going, I'm boss and I'm going to smash everyone. He didn't think that. He was thinking, all these are thinking, who's this skinny lad and he's not good enough. And that's Steven Gerrard saying that. So if you encourage them, you get them on side. As you just said, they'll try things, they'll do things. And if they know that if something doesn't come off, if everyone's on your side, That's a huge difference. You know, take it out of the football sphere and put it in another one. Like if you try something in your job and you get it wrong, but someone you're working with says, "But I can see what you were trying to do. Well, then do it again."
Yeah, have another go.
Then you'll have another go. But if you get that weird feeling where you're like, "Oh, I've done something wrong," next time you'll be safe. And safe doesn't win us the league.
Safe doesn't win us the league, and this is what this is about now. It's about winning us the league. We're looking at, we're sitting top of the pile, level with City, one game in hand. That game is Man United. We'll have a chat about that in a minute. Bayern Munich in the Champions League, it doesn't get more exciting. You've got Watford, you've got Everton away on the horizon. There's never been a better time, really, to get absolutely stuck into the Reds. I mean, let's start with Bayern and Man United. Two massive games. I honestly can't wait.
I can't wait either. I mean, I think, we're seeing little bits of team news and, some worries around who's going to play centre-half and who's going to do this and blah, blah, blah. Not bothered. Do you know what I mean? Not bothered. We're at the stage of the season where it's the business stage of the season. Everyone
mucks in.
Yeah, and those games being consecutive games, fantastic. You know what I mean? Like, we'll all be... You won't be able to, can't wait to get in there, can't wait to get involved. The atmosphere will be up, like you said before, and then United away always is what it is, but it's going to be even more so this year. They'll be desperate to put, to wreck our challenge, if you like. We'll equally, if we go there and win, end Solskjaer's run, that'd be fantastic as well. So, there's loads riding on it, but there should be. That's literally what Liverpool's for, and I think it's worth remembering, you look around at other clubs and different parts of the country and just think, imagine just sort of your season already being over.
Yeah.
You're out of the competitions, you've got nothing to play for, you're just ticking along, you go in the match, you're having a pint, but there's nothing really in it.
Speaking of Everton, would you start Origi? Goodison?
Yeah, just for the needle.
Yeah.
Just bring
Give
him
him
on.
60.
Go and do it again, Origi, in the 96th minute.
Put the best 11 out against Watford and then bring Origi on. So you start Origi and Goodison and go from there, and we can all have a massive party again.
Absolutely, I'd be up for that. Maybe we should all wear Origi t-shirts to Goodison.
Maybe we should do that. All the matches are to come, and what Gareth says there is right, but not just for us versus other sides, but us versus ourselves. There have been seasons, and they're not so long ago, where come this stage of the season, it didn't feel like this, it didn't mean this much. This one means everything. If you think about subscribing, we've got all the audio for you, you know where it is, the Anfield at £5 a month. We're working away at innovating our video stuff, that's there for you as well, and that's available currently all on YouTube for you to see. There's not a better time to do this, theanfieldrap.com/subscribe, £5 a month to help us get behind these absolutely brilliant Reds, get stuck in and enjoy every last minute of this brilliant season.